Hi everyone, good afternoon, happy Wednesday. So today we're going to talk about food and nutrition with lovely Julie Daniluk. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate. You can just drop it in the comment or question bubble. It can be any question about nutrition and food, about perimenopause, menopause, general, or anything specific. She's the best person. Julie is the best person. If you have any questions, I'm going to invite her in a second. I wait another minute so for people to join us. Hi. It is definitely a great topic. It is very important. We know food is medicine, but it's very important to know which food. Choose the right food. Hi from New Zealand. Great. Good to have you here. Let me know, everyone, where are you from today? Hi, Emily Rose. Okay, I'm inviting Julie. New Zealand. Hi.
Good to see you.
And you?
Hey,
Great, finally.
it's so fun to do this. Thank you. I can't wait to share and to empower women
I
in this crazy
know.
time of life. Absolutely.
It's lovely to have you here
Thank
today. It's
you.
great. So
Thank you.
before we start, I thought it's great to introduce ourselves. I'm Dr. Amin, and I'm a traditionally trained GP or family doctor, and now board certified functional doctor, and working in Toronto, private practice. And of course, my passion is empowering women to be advocate for their health, and just to be able to have that informative decision. And that's why I love to talk about perimenopause and menopause. That's again my special interest. And yourself, Julie, lovely Julie.
Oh, thank you. Well, I am so excited to find you and so glad that we are able to connect this way because I think that functional medicine doctors are the heroes of today. Like we desperately needed someone to be willing to go through the hard process of becoming an MD, but then to bridge the gap. So what
Yeah.
you're doing is really helping bring uh, preventative measures and
Yeah.
helping to empower people to really have things addressed before they're in a critical health
Yeah.
crisis. That's
Mhm.
what I absolutely love about
Yeah.
your choice to do this work. So thank you for that. Just to start there.
Thank you. So let us know about yourself. We
Oh
just want to
yeah,
hear a bit about, I
sure.
mean, of course, we know you're a nutritionist, and let us know about things you do or your
Sure.
special
So,
interests.
yes, I also have a thriving practice and I run a support group for menopausal women essentially. Most of them are
Mhm.
menopausal women who are dealing with inflammation. So my
Mhm.
specialty is anti-inflammatory nutrition. So somebody who's dealing with joint pain, muscle pain, chronic headaches, digestive problems, we want to get that sorted out because
Mhm.
we now know that inflammation is in the background of every major disease state. You know, arthritis, bursitis, colitis, diverticulitis. You could build a rap song from every itis that exists
Mhm.
in the world. So
Yeah.
we need to use food powerfully to
Mhm.
downgrade that inflammation. So that's what we're really working on with the support group. It's super affordable, super easy. Every Wednesday night we get together, but we also have a private practice. So we certainly delve into helping people, and I have an amazing team so that we can make sure you really tune into what you need. We want to personalize it. I'm sure that's a big part of your practice is we're forgetting the whole rubber stamping prescription. It's now about personalized medicine and personalized nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm passionate about that. I have a great new book coming out, or a revised book, Meals That Heal Inflammation. My best-selling book, international bestseller, is
Mm-hmm.
been completely revised, and it's coming out in January. So those are my three big things.
So where are you working from? Or is it online? Is
Yeah,
it or in?
online now.
Okay.
So I'm originally 30 years in Toronto. I'm now just outside of just outside of Toronto. You know, that's what a lot of people did during COVID, is we're all like,
Yes,
oh, let's move
I
a little bit
know.
outside the city. So it's nice now. Yeah. With a
Great.
great online practice. Yes.
Lovely. It's just
Okay.
amazing.
Oh, I love all these
I
questions coming in. Very
know.
at which stage
So
inflammation.
many. So,
Yeah.
so before we start, just a very frequent question that I receive, it could be a bit confusing. Of course, this phrase of food is medicine. I mean, we cherish this for many centuries. And even Hippocrates
Yes.
famously said that let food be the medicine and medicine be the food. I mean, we know
Yes.
that food can prevent disease, even treat disease. But then we see this day and age, especially in North America, with all these hormone disruptors, herbicides, pesticides, water, air pollution, and depleted soil by over farming. Can food still serve as medicine? And or if this is an outdated notion, and if not, from this vast different types of food, as a nutritionist, what you recommend people how to choose the right food?
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly are dealing with depletion and a lot of issues, but
Mhm.
I want people to have hope that we're very resilient. And if we have enough of the right nutrients, we're good to go. Because one thing that's really fascinating is we've never had so much abundance. If we look back at people who thrived in
Mhm.
many other centuries, they were thriving with so much less food than we have today. So even though our food is not as nutrient dense as it was 100 years ago, with some really clever choices, we can make sure to get our vitamin A through zinc covered off. And I truly believe that that can be a powerful medicine. And
Mhm.
beyond, I really think now the focus on understanding essential fatty acids can be such a key player. Like for thousands of years, we had a very high ratio of omega-3.
Mhm.
And then it was tested in 1904 that we had about a 4-to-1 ratio, like 4 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. And today is 25 times the amount of omega-6 to only 1 part omega-3. And that is driving
Mhm.
inflammation through the roof. We now understand that these highly processed seed oils are actually creating the most hormonal havoc. So if we can cut back on the canola oil, the soya oil, the cottonseed oil, really avoiding deep fried foods, because those fryers use the same oil over and over again. So you can imagine how oxidized that food is. And then when you take a carbohydrate and you drop it into frying oil, you end up
Mhm.
creating this toxin called acrylamide at such a high level. So that's why if there's one food that I'd be like, oh, if I could pick the one food on the planet that I'm like, oh, we got to let go of it, I would say it's donuts. Because
Mhm.
donuts, like, think the sugar and the flour spiking a woman's blood sugar really high. And then we have the acrylamide created from that carbohydrate hitting the frying oil, plus all that omega-6 that's highly oxidized and processed. So if we can let go of the Canadian pastime, because that's the hilarious thing is,
I
you know,
know.
it's going on the run to Timmy's on the lunch break that might be causing
Yes,
you to have your menopause be far more impacted than we accept.
definitely.
Yeah.
So no donuts,
No,
ladies.
yeah, I would let go of the donuts if I could pick one food to let go of for sure.
Someone is asking about how to, does food help decreasing SLE or autoimmune disease, lupus?
I
Uh,
would run, not walk to a wonderfully designed autoimmune protocol for
mhm.
nutrition if you do have an autoimmune condition. Because let's face it, the immune system is just firing off and attacking your body. So we have to calm down that arm of the immune system.
Mhm.
So we do that using really powerful foods that we know are safe. We need to get away from the foods that trigger your immune system, especially things like gluten is probably one of the worst triggers, because gluten, unfortunately, the protein within it is mocking up similarly to, say, our thyroid. So a lot of people struggle with this overreaction of the immune system. So yes, I highly recommend really following anti-inflammatory nutrition when you're dealing with lupus.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we have women going through menopause, perimenopause, many years, and then menopause with so many different symptoms. It's a hormone deficiency state. And I thought maybe it would be helpful if we just break it down with each organ and symptoms they present with, and then you recommendations about foods that they can have help them and
Sure.
aid them during this period. So we can start with that foggy brain, memory issues that they have, as well as mental health problems and depression, which is very common, or anxiety during this time.
Yes, I would really like to start by saying, are you dealing with this because you have an overgrowth of candida or another type of negative bacteria that is causing the brain fog? Because the byproducts of the fermentation of yeast actually causes the brain to become foggy. Also, we need to look, especially over 50, we need to be very careful to avoid UTIs. Urinary tract infections are a leading cause of memory loss as we get older. And I've just seen that with one of my clients where she had full-blown dementia symptoms to the point where they took away her actual driver's license and everything. But
Mhm.
once she had her UTI addressed, 100% of her faculties came back.
Mhm.
So we got to really make sure to keep the urinary tract clear, but also keep our bowel, really reducing that amount of overgrowth. You know, if you're dealing with huge bloating and gas and
Mhm.
distension, then obviously things are really fermenting in there. So we look to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and small intestinal fungal overgrowth, so
Yeah,
SIBO and SIFO.
yeah.
And we really do want to also provide the brain what it needs to thrive. So if your blood sugar is high and then low and then
Mhm.
high and then low, you're going to have terrible moods. You're going to have a really hard time remembering things. But if we switch to healthy fats that we know fuel the brain,
Mhm.
like one of the big ones, obviously we know that if we can enjoy more butyrate, for example, butyrate is really high in butter. And if you're allergic to casein and any sort of lactose, if you're intolerant to lactose, then let's go with clarified butter, for example. That's one of the highest sources of this incredible nutrient that helps to heal the lining of the gut,
Mhm.
but also helps to turn on our ketone production. And a lot of people are like scared off of the ketogenic diet. I'm not suggesting keto unless you have very specific diagnosis. Like obviously it's very good for epilepsy, but I am saying
Mhm.
that we can, when we're in the absence of high glucose, we get to make glucagon, which is our fat burning hormone, and we also get to make extra ketones to fuel up our memory and keep us sharp and on
Mhm.
tack. And we do see a real change in people's anxiety levels, not just depression, but when we have a lower sugar, higher fiber, higher amounts of essential fatty acids in the menu, then we do see a huge swing in the risk of depression. So I
Mhm.
really think, you know, omega-3, back to omega-3.
Mhm.
Omega-3 is so important for our moods, along with vitamin
Mhm.
D, because they work as a 1-2 punch to help us make serotonin. And that's
Mhm.
going to truly, like, let's fill the tank with more serotonin. And that can be an amazing alternative to, you know, I'm not saying to go off prescriptions, I'm saying to work with your functional medicine doctor like you,
Yeah.
so that maybe there's a
Mhm.
way that you can move into holistic things that actually
Yes.
do help to improve your
Yeah.
mood.
So you mentioned omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D. So any type of foods? I mean, what type of foods you recommend to be rich in
Yeah,
these two?
yeah.
Very important.
Well, one big thing that I want people to start to really get is that when we feed the gut, we feed the brain.
Mhm,
So we need to increase these special type of fibers called short chain. The certain type of soluble fibers will break down, the bacteria will eat those and spit out short chain fatty acids that are extremely healing, not just to your gut, but also make your brain much happier.
mhm,
So that's why by embracing, one of my favorite veggies would probably be asparagus,
mhm.
because asparagus has a really rich source, but also has like the selenium to support the thyroid. So I'm a big fan of those delicious veggies that when we really look at them are very high in fiber.
I know. That's great. Amazing. I think someone is once talking about um, the fat gain, weight gain in, again, perimenopause, which you mentioned about insulin resistance is very common during this time.
Mm.
So, and how to deal with insulin resistance with food and nutrition. Um,
Well, insulin resistance, when the only true ways to deal with it is to change our menu.
mhm,
Because let's face it, if we constantly spike our blood sugar, our insulin has to respond. And if insulin is constantly high, our reception
mhm,
to insulin will go down. So, how do we prime the pump? We need to prime ourselves to receive insulin correctly by ensuring that we avoid the insulin spikes. And the big thing that I've learned, because I've worn a blood sugar monitor, I'm 54, so I have to be very careful with my blood sugar too.
mhm.
Absolutely. So I wear
Yes.
a blood sugar monitor to do experiments.
Mhm,
And I did this great experiment that was proven in 2015, where if we change the order in which we eat, we change the spike of our blood sugar substantially. So, first day, I had a gluten-free bagel, and then I had a salad with pesto dressing. Then I had some lovely eggs for breakfast, right? And that whole scenario spiked my blood sugar over 8.5 because I had the bagel first. The next day, I ate the exact same amount of food. I was super careful about it. But the next day, I had actually the fiber first. Always good to fiber works like a time release capsule. It bubbles up everything so that it absorbs very
mhm.
slowly. So I had the salad with the dressing, then the pesto on the eggs, and then later I had that
Bagel.
identical bagel, and my blood sugar only went to 5.3 or 5.4. So you can imagine that's a 30% swing simply by changing the order in which we eat things.
Mhm.
So I want everyone to really focus on the fiber first, then having good oils, because that will really work as a time release, then the protein, and then last, if you're going to eat a carb,
Mhm.
make sure that it's behind what I like to call the three food interference.
Yeah.
Let's put the protein, the fat, and the fiber in there so that your blood sugar is buffered and you are absolutely able to enjoy life with having the blood sugar balance you need to reduce that insulin resistance.
Exactly. Because we want to prevent as much possible those spikes and to
Yes.
have like a flat line, if possible, as much possible, to prevent insulin resistance. Someone is asking about olive oil. So what,
Ah,
I mean,
I could
Mediterranean
do,
diet.
yes, I could talk for an hour on olive oil. Yeah, olive oil is very special
Mhm.
because unlike seed oils where you need a solvent to extract it, we've been eating olive oil forever because it's just a very fatty fruit. So we
Mhm.
just can hand crush it, right? Not that we hand crush it now, but just know that we don't need solvents, and it's extremely high in omega-9, and omega-9 is particularly cardiac protective.
Mhm.
And that's why I am such a big fan of it, because omega-9 is anti-inflammatory. It's been shown to really be helpful. So yeah, enjoy good quality olive oil.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure it's real, because
Mhm.
unfortunately, because there's more requests for olive oil than there is supply in the world, there's a lot of people passing off cheap olive oil and cheap like canola oil, soy oil, cottonseed oil as olive oil. And
Yes.
If it's in a clear container with no country of origin, with no traceability, with no due date on it, we know it's almost certain to be corrupted and not be authentically olive oil, because it can make it look like olive oil just by adding a tiny bit of chlorophyll to it. It looks, and sometimes they say it's light, and it literally looks like canola oil because it is canola oil. So avoid that and definitely go for real stuff. I really like Silverleaf. I really like Acropolis. There's some wonderful local brands that are available. Certainly where we're from in Toronto, there's some wonderful olive oils. I love that Acropolis is literally based out of Crete, Crete in Greece, and then flown directly to the warehouse in Toronto.
That's great. So it's good to know about the brands and which one to choose for people. And do you have any tips for hot flashes
Oh,
due
do I
to
ever?
low estrogen?
Yeah, I wanted
Yes.
to bring up the study that I found in 2011 that found that infrared sauna heat, 20 minutes, just twice a week, can reduce your hot flashes. Because how many of us are terrified of sweating and getting hot? So we almost always reject heat, but it turns out we have the ability to heat adapt. So it's such a good idea for us to cut out really this air-conditioned obsessed place, and when possible try to train yourself to be able to handle sweating, because it actually adapts your thermometer and your body gets used to the act of getting toxins out and sweating. It's also so good for the removal of all those chemicals that we really need to get out of our system. This is one of the great ways to cleanse. It's also one of the great ways that we can get heavy metals out of our system, which is a really huge deal for hormonal imbalance. So I've been able to reduce my lead exposure, my mercury exposure by regular sauna use. So just to give a plus for that. But let's talk about the real causes of hot flashes. And I know that you know this, so you can teach this part for sure. It's often adrenal exhaustion because there's that triad, right? So there's a triad between the thyroid and the sex hormones and your adrenal and your adrenals, your thyroid, and your sex hormones. So as we lose our estrogen and progesterone, right? And our thyroid is often tanking at the same time. You can see how the adrenals just get absolutely exhausted. And that's why in other parts of the world where they have very good adrenal health because they're well supported, we don't see the same frequency of hot flashes. So we want to really work on adrenal function. And that's why I personally choose to take an adrenal glandular, because that is giving me a more cushion for my adrenals. But that's like a whole deep topic unto itself, using glandulars. But I do think we need to address adrenal health. And that a big one on that is B vitamins and vitamin C. So B vitamin foods, all your dark leafy greens, your peas, your beans, all of the vitamin Bs are incredibly important because your adrenals really need lots of vitamin B5 and B6. So definitely give it some love. And then people don't realize that vitamin C is food for the adrenals. And they often, especially when they go on low carb diets, they're not eating the vitamin C that they once did. So I would love everyone to just start juicing the lemons and the limes. Like, let's get back to the OG version of getting our vitamins, because vitamin C, like ascorbic acid in a powder, is very hard for our tissues to receive because it's missing the bioflavonoids, or what we used to call vitamin P, allowed vitamin C to get into your tissues. So I want everyone to really boost up on all of the pith. So don't just eat the inside of the mandarin. Try to eat some of the white bits, because that's going to give you more of the vitamin P. Those bioflavonoids are so good. You probably know that rutin, being another bioflavonoid, is extremely good for helping women with hot flashes. So we want to have lots of vitamin C foods. And this brings me to another topic, which is when we have tons of vitamin C, we are feeding our adrenals so we can cope with better stress. And we're also reducing negative actual anti-nutrients in our food, which is
Mhm.
a hot topic now because a lot of
Yes.
people are talking about like, oh my goodness, like should we be worried about phytic acid or oxalates? Well, the great news is that lemon and lime juice containing citric acid really helps your body get rid of the negative anti-nutrients in your food. There
Mhm.
you
That's
go.
great. So we want to support our adrenals. It's very important for those hot flashes. What about how do you support? I mean, flax seeds are great for
Mm,
estrogen, I
mm.
believe. We know a lot of women have low estrogen too and progesterone during this time, and that could be one of the reasons for their hot flashes.
Yes.
Um,
Yes,
so
I
foods
actually
that.
I have a great study on that as well to share that
Mhm,
flax seeds, the study was done in, I will give you the exact date that we found this. It was 2010, I believe.
mhm,
So it's been around a while. But the study showed that 4 tablespoons of ground flaxseed daily for 6 weeks reduced cut hot flashes in half. So
mhm.
that's really easy to get with flax crackers and flax wraps. So if all of a sudden people are like, how am I going to get this into me? Well, I add ground flax into my applesauce because that makes actually a great little porridge in the morning. You can stick your protein powder in there because I don't recommend having carbs without protein. So you put your good carbs in there, and then your ground flax is providing some protein
Mhm.
and some lignans, and lignans are very powerful to help you reduce your hot flash frequency. But you can also have Nude Food crackers. So Nude Food is one of my favorite cracker brands. That is a
Mhm.
local Toronto company available around the
Mhm.
world, and delicious, so well made. And I just love her everything bagel crackers. They're
Yes,
so good. And
yes.
then I also really like Wrap It Up Raw is this gorgeous flax wrap
Mhm.
that also has some carrot in it, which is also very good for hormonal balance. And I just put, all my favorites in there. So if you don't mind having things like, I love salmon with the bones left in it, or sardines with the bones left in it. Mash it super, super fine. So you're getting all that bone matrix calcium. And then adding in some mustard and some olive oil, so you don't even need mayonnaise, and mash it up really well, and then put it in the middle of your sandwich. And I like adding pickles in
Oh,
there so it tastes really nummy, and a really
nice.
good salad. And now we've got a gorgeous wrap that's helping to reduce your hot flashes.
Lovely. That's great recipe.
Thanks.
Um, what are your thoughts about bone broth? Because I mean, I've been trying it for last 6 months and I love it. So many benefits. I don't know if you experimented or have any thoughts on that,
Yeah. Did you
recommendations.
know I wrote a book called The Hot Detox, and the backbone of the entire course is using bone broth to heal your gut lining. So good on you. Yeah. So why is bone broth
Mhm.
special? Well, when we cook those bones, they actually put out a lot of glycine, which is incredible for reducing anxiety, incredible for brain healing,
Mhm.
so good for you. And then proline puts out lots of proline, which is very gut healing. So we're healing the brain, healing the gut.
Mhm.
And it also, of course, has all of that wonderful gelatin will come out into solution, and all that gelatin provides our joints and our bones
Mhm.
this wonderful amount of needed or needed amino acids to help repair us.
Mhm.
So that's why I really feel that as we go menopausal, especially if you can't take our HRT, how important is it to be building up this reserve of minerals? Because I know everyone harps on vitamins. Minerals are where it's at for energy. Minerals are where it's at for mental clarity, and so important for us to age well,
Mhm.
because obviously osteoporosis, osteopenia is afflicting so many
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So yes, I'm a big fan, to answer
Yeah,
your
it's
question.
great. And I just when before even going to bed, I have a glass of bone broth, and it's so filling and
Mm,
calming and soothing. It's just,
calming. I
yeah,
love it. Totally.
it's just amazing.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts about intermittent fasting? I mean, now for last few years, we keep hearing about it, the benefits of it. So, have you tried it, or I mean, there's so many different types of intermittent fasting, or I mean, my preference is overnight fasting, which we all do. But any thoughts on that, with especially insulin resistance people dealing with?
What I find so funny is that you literally are hitting every single hot button point, because I did 1,800 days of intermittent fasting. Like, I just love intermittent fasting because it really helped me break my cycle of nocturnal overeating.
Mm-hmm.
So I love the fact that when we say line in the sand, I'm going to stop eating at 7 and I'm not going to eat again until 9 o'clock the next morning, that's 14 hours that we're just not having to think about food. So this has worked incredibly well for my clients because it typically pares back about 500 or 600 calories in the munchies that people were eating, typically foods that we don't want to eat, like we're not going to be healed by, are those late night foods. Another thing that very few people realize, and this is the work of Dr. Sachin Panda, is that when you have food at night, the insulin spike will trump melatonin is trying to express, but melatonin actually trumps insulin sensitivity. So the melatonin will not allow you to absorb the sugars into your cells. So therefore it'll stay often outside your cells and create hormonal havoc. So carbs at night create hormonal havoc. So that's why if you are going to eat, it's so wonderful that you have bone broth, because that's just pure fat and protein. You're not having the same insulin spike that you would have from having, say, potato chips right before bed, right?
No.
So that's what's so good. If someone's going to fast, but we have to fast like a girl. We have to fast like a woman. We can't fast like guys. Guys
Yeah.
often can go 24 hours without
Mm-hmm.
eating, just to protect our thyroid, because we do notice when we fast aggressively in the morning, a cortisol spike could impact our thyroid hormone expression. I like to have a 9 a.m. start time for eating. It also keeps me calm and keeps me in the game, where I used to push fasting and I noticed it was causing me stress. So now the whole thing is try to cut off eating as early as you can and just fast until you're comfortable in the morning, but don't push it into noon. That is really hard. And it's also hard for you to get enough protein, because a big piece
Yeah,
of aging well through menopause is the avoidance of sarcopenia, or muscle
exactly.
wasting.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we want, and most of us are very low on protein intake. So that is, especially with fasting, long hours, then we miss on that. Someone is asking about avocado oil. Um, any
Sure.
thoughts on that?
So avocado oil can be very helpful because it's a lot of omega-9 again. And it has a higher smoke point than other oils, and it's not the seed. We extract it from the flesh. So it's not as inflammatory as other highly processed oils. The other thing to keep in mind is that cheap brands of avocado oil do have a few of those pitfalls. So it's just really good to focus on healthy healing brands. There's a couple certified organic avocado oils, so if you can afford those, know that organic certification, why I love it so much, is because there's field to table accounting. They have to account for all the inputs, all the outputs, so they can't lie about sourcing. They have to prove that it literally moved from this field onto your table. So I do really think that there's room for avocado oil, but whenever possible, please eat just avocado. And I really love to see the new frozen avocado coming out, because frozen avocado is ripened and then flash frozen with just citric acid, and it doesn't brown nearly as badly. And I love the fact that it's perfect and only $1 an avocado, where a lot of avocados right now, like we're seeing $2, $3 for one avocado. You get it home, you cut it open, it's brown inside and you're crying, right? So
Yes.
how nice that there's new ways to eat avocados. And we now know that flash freezing ripe food does not degrade the nutrition nearly as well, nearly as badly as if you eat old produce. That's where we really notice a huge degrade, is over 2-3 weeks that food nutrient is just going down, down, down. So I actually sometimes in the winter when food gets really expensive, I don't mind doing flash frozen food.
Okay, that's good. A very good tip to know. That's great. So now the little bacterias in our gut, they need some TLC too. We have to look after our microbiotas. So how? I mean, we hear again a lot about fermentation process and fermented foods. What are your recommendations? What type of foods, natural foods that we can take, fermented, and if this is something for everyone?
I absolutely love this topic because we now understand that with every course of antibiotics, it's sort of a nuclear bomb going off in your digestive system. So you have a clean slate. And if we don't put the good guys in, and if we don't give you the good foods to nurture the good guys, having an establishment and starting a new colony, then unfortunately the yeast that was not killed off with the antibiotic just has a chance to bloom. And that's why so many people have these overgrowths of candida. So how do we nurture the good bacteria? We put in the roughage. So we want to have those short chain fatty acids coming from the fibrous foods. So the arugula is one of my favorites. And having any of the, another one is, artichokes. Love them. So rich in the good fibers that are so helpful. But we also want to look to just apples are a great source of malic acid. So I don't know if you've heard this, but there's now 4 terms going out there. There's prebiotics. Those are the foods that feed your good bacteria, which I know you know. Then there's the probiotics, which are the bacteria themselves. But then we have postbiotics, which is the chemicals that the good bacteria make that heal your body. So these, which I know you know because you run organic acid tests as part of your practice, the organic acids are the actual postbiotics that are so great. So in those, we're looking at malic acid, and we're also looking at acetic acid in apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is one of my all-time favorite go-tos. I actually really like to make this drink, which I'll talk about now, which is apple cider vinegar and water with 1 or 2 drops of monk fruit or stevia, because this is balancing my blood sugar with every meal. So before a big meal, you would want to have apple cider vinegar because it's great for helping to keep your blood sugar under control and also to create the right environment for the good bacteria to thrive, which is simply awesome. And then of course the citric acid we've already talked about. So making sure you have lots of citrus, having caprylic acid, which is the coconut oil, really helps to clear the decks and helps to keep the good guys up. But also I like to do a lot of baking with coconut flour because the fibers in the coconut also set up the right environment. And then the lactic acid, right? Like funny that lactic acid in our muscles makes us sore, but lactic acid in our guts help us stay strong and help to proliferate, especially the lactobacillus acidophilus, which is that the lactic acid creating bacteria that we all need. So I really recommend having lots of sauerkraut and fresh pickles. And they're so easy to make. So you just buy live pickles from the store. Like I love Bubby's, they're so good. And then just put more veggies in there. You can feed your brine so that you don't have to make up a special brine yourself, but you're pickling new veggies that are going to help you set up the right bacteria. So buy pickles that are in the fridge because they're going to be live, which is what we need. And my new favorite coconut yogurt, because I'm actually dairy free, is I love Simpla, which is a brand new product to Ontario. And it tastes, I really like proper yogurt because it's actually fermented for 14 solid hours, which is much longer than other brands. So that tanginess is that lactic acid that we desperately need, for sure.
Yeah, so go for it,
Go for
ladies.
it. There you go. And the last one is fumaric acid from mushrooms. So shiitake mushrooms, if you can splash out on those, excellent for weight loss, excellent for heart health, so good for you. Love them.
Mushrooms are such beautiful food, I think. Anti-inflammatory is just, and so many other benefits.
So many good, but darker the better,
The
because the
dark.
white mushrooms are grown in the dark, so they don't make vitamin D, where when they're dark, they've been exposed to light, and that's got the vitamin D2 in it, which is really neat, especially for vegetarians out there.
What about our lovely chocolate? dark chocolate.
Yeah, I know how many women love dark chocolate. We've got a couple hearts flying from that. Well, of course, there's so many polyphenols
Mhm.
in chocolate, and we now know polyphenols feed the good bacteria, and they also help, they're great for anti-aging, so there's tons of
Mhm.
good data there. The only caveat is we don't want to go crazy with conventional chocolate because it's very high in sugar, but it's also very high in lead.
Mhm.
So there's been a lot of exposés lately on how crummy a lot of big brands are. And
Yeah.
the lead is not in the chocolate organically, it's actually in the processing of, because they lay cocoa beans out on the fields, that it picks up lead, which is really weird. So just be careful of that. And if you're concerned about anti-nutrients, because people who have vulva pain, people who have urinary tract infections, people who have a lot of eczema, people who have a lot of sleep disorders, they may want to look at the need to eliminate oxalates. And unfortunately, chocolate is one of the highest foods in oxalates. So I've sort of changed, I kind of do chocolate sort of walking through on stilts instead of like chocolate all the time, like every day, twice a day, you know? Like everyone falls on it as like your treat. And the good news is I make a white chocolate with coconut milk that is so good, and it's oxalate free because white chocolate has no oxalates. So you can get around it. There's a possibility. If you have serious kidney stone issues or you have to avoid oxalates. Yeah.
Someone is talking about bone broth that could cause some histamine sensitivity, and what are good alternatives? Is histamine more
Sure.
when estrogen is high?
Well, I mean, what we see is that there are lots of people, different things that will cause a histamine intolerance. One thing I want to say is we need to calm down the gut because the mast cells are sitting along the gut, and eventually we can downregulate your histamine response. One of my favorite things for that is quercetin, which you probably use
Yeah.
all the time in your practice
Mhm.
because it helps to downregulate histamine response. But getting back to bone broth, one way we can reduce the histamine response is a very slow brew process. Do not boil the crap out of it. So
That's
if we
interesting.
want to simmer a really low, we reduce the amount of histamine response to the broth, which I found really interesting. And we can use high mineral seaweed broths. That's what I would normally recommend to a vegetarian. So by adding some kelp or some kombu or some type of seaweed, the seaweed has 65 trace minerals, which actually go into fluid through the osmosis of cooking. Then you have a high mineral broth, because that's really what we're doing. We're trying to get high minerals into you.
And where do you get a good seaweed? Again, that's, I think, the quality is important. What
Sure
type?
is, because Japan is still dealing with Fukushima.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
exactly.
I really like to be on the east coast of Canada.
Mhm.
The healthiest seaweed is being manufactured in New Brunswick because, as far as all my research, they haven't had any oil disasters or nuclear disasters ever. So we still have somewhat of a pocket of protection there where unfortunately the Pacific Ocean, the Korean and the Japanese,
Yes.
we will be dealing with some
Mhm.
radiation there.
Uh, are there any specific foods I should focus on improve my gut health?
Yeah. Well, we talked about
Love.
so many of them, right? All the fermented foods like the yogurt and the sauerkraut and everything else. But I just want to give some other shout outs that would be really
Mhm.
helpful, which is the brassica family of plants. So when we have the cauliflower and we have lots of
Mhm.
broccoli and all the Brussels sprouts, those contain a ton of wonderful they're isothiocyanates, and they break down once chopped into sulforaphane, which is
Mhm.
extremely protective to you. And this is very particularly important when we have more estrogen than we should, and our progesterone is lower. So I really like that cruciferous veggies, that's a big place that they play a role, is trying to balance
Mhm.
estrogen dominance.
Mhm.
So yeah, really big fan of the cruciferous veggies. So keep those
Yeah,
high for
I
sure.
love I love cilantro too. This does again
Oh yeah,
very with
yeah, and great heavy
estrogen.
metal
Yes,
detoxifier too,
it
which is great.
is. What
Yeah.
about again, we see a rise in cardiovascular disease with menopause and hormone deficiency in estrogen, especially how to look after with food our cardiovascular system.
I think the biggest thing to focus on is avoidance of spiking your blood sugar, because we actually create more arterial damage from high blood sugar. But now we realize that what they call the hateful eight, those dreadful seed oils, are actually doing a lot of damage to the inside of the blood vessels. So a lot of people are like, why at 50? Yes, of course, as we see a drop of estrogen, but we need to also look at the metabolic impact that goes in 20s, 30s, 40s. So it's just hitting us by 50, but it started in our 20s and 30s. And that's why we need to balance our blood sugar like it's our part-time job. Like we literally need to eat like our life depends on it, because it literally does.
Yes.
And that's why I avoid all processed foods. The ultra processed foods have got to go. The white flour, the white sugar, anything that comes in a packet with those 50 ingredients, that is truly, I think, the backbone cause of cardiovascular disease.
It is, certainly, or the whole metabolic dysfunction.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think I actually wrote a book on it called The Hormonal Heart, because what will surprise people is that I wasn't able to continue with my HRT journey. I love that some women can, like I'm totally down for that, but I'm one of those rare carriers of factor V Leiden. And I unfortunately did have a blood clot as a result. So you just have to check. That's why going to see you and having a hormone panel done, having some genetic tests to make sure, like, are you a good candidate for this, can be so helpful. And so I actually wrote about that in my book, The Hormonal Heart, because I want women to know, like, what can you do besides HRT to help your heart?
I'm just going through.
Yeah, there's so many, right?
I
I'm looking at
know.
one about a CGM.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
So again, so you wear it yourself, experimenting on it.
Yeah, I
Just
only wear it like a couple times a year because they're so darn expensive. Unless you
yeah.
get an MD to write that you have type 2 diabetes, or you're borderline at least, and you need to wear one. They're $100 to $110. But they are prescriptive if you end up being labeled as diabetic. So I just love wearing one as a check, and then I will check it literally 10 times a day, and like really look at my food journal and cross relate what in the world is causing blood sugar spikes, because then you can go, that's on my personal no list. Because some people do okay with rice where other people won't. Some people, just an apple will spike their blood sugar where other people would have to be something that contains actual white sugar. So it depends on how sensitive you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's great to experiment and just to get to know your body, how you react to different foods, and then just follow. I mean, not necessarily to wear it all the time, but it would be helpful for a few days or weeks.
Yes.
So I think the very important last question is about coffee and tea. So yeah. Well, maybe one before last, because the next one would be about alcohol.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, okay.
But what about coffee, and what are your thoughts?
Well, coffee is rich with hundreds of actual plant compounds that could be beneficial for blood sugar regulation. It could be potentially helpful for gallbladder expression of bile, and it can be helpful for increasing your typing speed. That's what we know. Now, know that coffee doesn't actually make energy, but it suppresses your sleepiness. It suppresses your fatigue. So we don't want to abuse it. If we use coffee daily, unfortunately, we become caffeine adapted, and then we need coffee to just feel normal. So that's why I only use coffee once or twice a week, and it's for interviews, so I can access all of my brain and have faster speaking speed. But if you use it daily, it will just become another thing you need to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't recommend it daily, where I do recommend rotating your teas daily, because that's an amazing opportunity to infuse so many anti-inflammatory properties, right? Like burdock is incredible for your liver. And my gosh, I absolutely love dandelion root. It's so good for hormonal balance. So just rotate things around, have more variety and fun instead of just coffee, 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 coffee. And use that coffee when you need it the most. And then you'll notice that it'll go back to being the rocket fuel that you first enjoyed coffee for. Remember when it used to make you feel really energized and it even improved your mood? Well, you can get back to that if we pulse it. Yeah.
Especially women who feel that you have to drink 3-4 cups of coffee so to be awake in the morning. Definitely talk to doctor and check that cortisol awakening response. There must be some definitely problem with that.
And yet they're wired at night. I really
Mhm.
see that on their Dutch test, how they're
Yes, yes,
hugely
yes.
skewed to having high cortisol at night. Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Yes. What
Okay.
about spices? Spices,
Ooh,
and just the last one spice, it's just we
sure.
can't
So
live without
turmeric,
talking. Yeah.
ginger, powerfully anti-inflammatory, thousands of studies on it, highly recommend it. I really like curcumin if you were intolerant to oxalates, because that's all the goodness extracted. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a way around that if you are one of those sensitive people. And then I really do like having cumin, coriander, all of the Indian spices are carminative, meaning they reduce the bloating and the gas and the gut inflammation. So that's a big plus. And then all the Italian and European spices, the rosemary, the rosemary, sage,
Mm-hmm.
and of course basil, all
Time.
those guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
thyme. They're all very anti-inflammatory. All those essential oils, killing off negative microbes, but leaving the good ones alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like having this sort of cornucopia of herbs and spices as a big part of all the foods I make, for sure.
Great. And
Thank you.
someone sends hi to your puppy, your dog.
I know they've been removed from the space because they were making
Oh.
too much noise, so they were taken out. So just know that yes, we're babysitting 3 dogs,
Oh.
but they're little tiny dogs. So yeah, are you really wanting to see them? Because I'm tempted to bring them in,
Of
but
course,
we're
yes.
having lots of happiness. Let me wave at my husband. Maybe I can get him
Yes.
to come in. Alan, hey
Mine
bud.
is
Yeah.
sitting out too. I always put her out, my little puppy, my little big puppy.
Yes, I know, right? I'm willing to grab them just a sec. There they go. Yes, here they go. And I got to pick one up. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Here you go. And this is Lacey. There's Lacey.
Hi,
Lacey is a long-haired
Eugenie.
dachshund, and she's super cute. So there you go, guys. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you
Oh,
so much for
it
this
was
great
great.
opportunity.
Lovely. Hopefully we meet again
Yes,
soon.
I would love that. I'd absolutely love that. So if people want to check me out, you can go to thrivewithjulie.com and
Yes.
check out our anti-inflammatory support group, or just my name at Julie Daniluk. We'll get you to my website and all my social handles. So
And
thank
we
you
can't
again
wait
for
for the
hosting.
new book.
Yeah, Meals that
Yeah.
Heal Inflammation, coming to you January 1st. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thanks,
This was super fun.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye now.